Hi, and welcome to Two Old Chicks Who Know a Lot of Shit. I'm Tina McElroy-Anza, and I'm here with my partner, Wanda Lloyd. Hey, Wanda.
Hey, Tina, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good. My magical streak continues.
It's just going on and on like what is it? The bunny. What is it called?
Whatever. We won't say the name unless they're going to sponsor our podcast.
The little battery powered bunny.
We know the bunny that we're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah. Let me give you some more sound because I can hardly hear you. You got your sound?
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see if I can do something about
it. There you go.
All right, is that better?
That's so much better.
Oh, okay. Thank you for helping me make that adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, Tina, listen, we have some really good news to share about the Sea Island Writers Retreat, which you founded in 2004. Of course, we mentioned the retreat in a past episode, and that's going to be in November. But now we can say we're officially accepting applications. And so, Tina, share the good news.
We have dates, we have websites, we have application buttons, we have information for you. We have more information on our faculty. I'm very excited about this. To begin with, the retreat website it's Sea Island Writers Retreat. It's the name of the website. I mean, it's the name of the retreat, of course, but the website is SIWR for Sea Island Writers Retreat. It's SIWR2022.org, O-R-G, not .com, .org. So that's SIWR2022.org. That's what I want to get out first, so you can run to that after you listen to our podcast.
Peter, we've been sort of hitting at it on social media, and we have a Twitter page and a Facebook page just for the retreat. And people keep saying, "Oh my gosh, I want to come. Tell me more. Tell me more. When can I apply? Do you have room for me?" People are saying, "I'm nervous. I'm going to submit something, but I'm not sure."
Oh, well, we kind of got people salivating for it, and we thought, of course, that the website would be right after that. But it was a couple of days because we wanted it. We've gotten such wonderful feedback on our website. It is beautiful. Please look at the video, but go to the information. First, I wanted to say place. The website really does show you how beautiful Island, how the Sea Island, beautiful the Sea Islands are, how beautiful the island where I live, and also the island where we're going to be having the retreats, which is Tybee Island, which is connected to Savannah, which is
right off the coast, the coast of Savannah, right? Yeah,
right off the coast of Savannah. So we've had boots on the ground in Savannah. We've had boots on the ground down here and all over the country. So the first thing we want to say is just take a look at the place and kind of soak it in, because I know it's going to speak to so many people's hearts. The second thing I want to mention is the faculty. OMG, would you take a look at our faculty? Our faculty, it starts with you and me. We're going to be doing the edit. We're going to be a what you call it when they tag team. We're going to be tag teaming the editing workshop. Mm-hmm. We have the wonderful author of the extraordinary novel, Take My Hand, Dolan Perkins Valdez, who is teaching, who will be leading our fiction workshop. Fiction workshop, which is historical fiction this year. Yeah. She'll be specializing in that. Dawn Turner, who wrote the beautiful memoir, Three Girls from Bronzeville, an American tale of race. Is it race, culture? I have it right here. Three Girls from Bronzeville, and it's a wonderful memoir. And she's also a journalist. She's done a number of things and a columnist, but she's going to be teaching our memoir workshop. We also have Crystal Wilkinson, that many of us have known for a number of years as a writing, working, teaching, creating poet. And she is this year's poet laureate of Kentucky. She is very much in the forefront of that Afro Appalachian movement, especially of poets. And she's going to be joining us. She's excited about coming to the Sea Islands, and we are just as excited about her joining us. We're also going to have, for 2 days, we're going to have Nick Stone. Oh my goodness, anybody who knows YA, who knows young adult, knows Nick Stone. She wrote Dear Martin and Shut Off, and her books, one of the ways to actually show you how wonderful her books are is they unfortunately are being banned in many schools, because she writes about race, she writes about culture, she writes about young people, she writes about gender. So, you know, she's going to be leading our YA workshop. That's our first one. And if I may say so, Nick Stone is the first student of the Sea Island Writers Retreat.
Is that right? Oh, I didn't know that.
To teach a course. She was, I think it was in 2013, just before her first book came out. And I do remember her. I remember her work. I remember how advanced she was. She has long hair. So I remembered her in the retreat. I remember her coming in with her hair wild, and she would wrap it up. And I know she's getting ready to work. She'd wrap up her hair and get ready to work. So we've been friends and colleagues for ever since I was her teacher. And so she's going to be coming back and teaching and leading workshop there.
You have Regina Taylor.
Please, Regina Taylor, who many of us know as an actress. She's a wonderful actress who was in Lovecraft Country. She was in that last scene when the main character was burning, and she was in the past. She's a wonderful actress. She's also, I think, on a sitcom on TV, A Boy's Life, American Boy's Life. But what we know her from everything from I'll Fly Away. I think some of us are old enough to remember that beautiful that beautiful series that was on probably in the 80s, maybe, or 90s. But anyway, that's where I think many of us first discovered her. But Regina is also a playwright. As a matter of fact, she probably thinks of herself, she considers herself more of a playwright than she does of an actress. And so she is going to join us to be leading our very first playwriting workshop. She's also going to be talking to our students about building a character from the bottom up. I mean, as an actress, you know how you can just have to take a role and just build it from the bottom up. So we're going to ask her to help us as writers learn to build our characters from the bottom up. You also, Wanda, speaking of you, are going to be doing a lecture, maybe a one-time lecture on writing opinion page pieces, because we always urge our students, that's a great way to get published, that's a great way to get your name out there. So as you can see, we're very excited. Did I leave anybody out, Wanda?
So, no, you didn't leave anybody out, but I have to say, that wasn't planned. And I told Tina that I had just recently done a lecture for another group on writing essays and opinion pieces. And she was like, oh my gosh, you have to do that for the retreat too. So fortunately, it just kind of
was. I mean, it was right. It was right there. And Wanda has a column, as you know, in her hometown newspaper, but she's always written op-ed page pieces and opinion page pieces. And she has been a wonderful mentor to those schoolgirls who have started out with her and who are now on their own and really flying as far as op-ed page pieces and also just opinion pieces. You know, you have your name out there as a new writer. You know, you want people to kind of come find you as well as you go looking for things. So that's,
we don't want to give everything away, because they can go to siwri2022.org. But I will say that you should look at the events section of the website, because Tina is going to do 4 live lectures on 4 different topics, and you and I are going to do the first one. And I think it's important, this first one, that we're going to have a conversation about just what is a writer's retreat, because I've never been to a writer's retreat. And when we started talking about the revitalized Sea Island Writers Retreat, Tina had to really just explain to me what we're going to do there. And I thought, well, other people might want to know that too. So that's going to be the first, but you can see the rest of them on that. That's going to be, I was looking on my phone to see if I can find a date, but it's in July.
We're going to do one a month, one in July, one in August, one September, one October, and in November we have the Sea Island Writers Retreat. So we'll be boots on the ground on Tybee Island. I wanted to tell you about the faculty, and I wanted to tell you about the camaraderie very quickly. Just that it's a wonderful place, and it's a safe place for progress, for talking, for sharing your work with professionals, who are going to be honest with you in a quick way, because we only have 4 days. So as we get closer to it, we'll be talking more about it. But we really want you to go to the website, which is siwr2022.org.
Yeah, and that website, that workshop I was referring to, my Wi-Fi just kicked in, is July 21st at 7:30. And I'm not sure which platform it's going to be, either Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, but we'll be telling you more about that. So save the date for that. So this is so exciting, Tina. So I can't wait. Can't wait.
Oh, I can't either. Yeah. Well, I have to calm my excitement level down, because if it's going to build all the way to November, y'all going to have to be tying me down by then. But it's going to be great. It's going to be great. It's a blessing, Wanda, isn't it?
It is. It really is. Yeah. Now, for those of us, those of you who are writers or aspiring writers, this is for you. And I cannot guarantee that you're going to get in the first one, because there's been so much buzz about it lately. But we're actually thinking about doing some more. So, hang in there with us. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. We got to get through the first, get through this. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, Wanda, we're going to be doing something a little different this episode. And I think it's something that is going to be very useful for folks, and something that you and I have been talking about for a while. It's a trend that we've been noticing, not that Black women are doing it, stepping up for leadership positions more now. It's just that that's more accessible. All they had to do was open the door, and here we are with all our leadership skills. But it's not something that I grew up, hearing and thinking about. And since I've been, around you, I see how vastly important leadership is, right? In every arena.
Absolutely. And one of the things that people ask me, well, how did you become a leader? And I said, well, I went to Spelman. So when we were at Spelman, every organization had women as leaders, because that's what we are. So,
and we were taught to be potential leaders. I think that and that's where I kind of ran into it. But Wanda came to Spelman having had some leadership workshops and that kind of thing. So she knows about this from the ground up, from Savannah up. And Savannah, old time Savannah, you're growing up Savannah, Wanda, all the way up to Savannah where you are now. And so Wanda and I talked about this a great deal, and we've noticed that, again, more Black women are stepping up and having accessibility to roles, and the more roles that are accessible, the more Black women seem to step up. But I think that leadership is kind of taken for granted when we look at politicians and and folks who step up and who are always the presidents of our organizations. But we forget how just integral it is in our whole life. So I just wanted to take this episode. I thought that you and I would kind of do the way that we always do, just talk a little bit about leadership and explore what We want to pick your brain. This is going to be sort of a Ask Wanda, leadership 101. And we have a good professor, y'all. So we're kind of just going to start her off, and then we're going to move on. But I guess what I want to start by asking you is, how did you know leadership was important? How did you come to leadership? You were a teenager, as far as I know, when you started this, or preteen. I mean, what built that? And I think what we want to know is, all of us raising girls and grandgirls and nieces and stuff, we kind of want to know what made you and what led you to leadership. I know those are a lot of questions, but I want to hear the whole kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, Tina, actually, it started very young for me, and I didn't remember all of that until I got back together with some of my girlfriends, and you've heard me talk about the Buttercups. And that was a little organization that we formed when I was in the 6th grade. And I'm still friends with some of the Buttercups. In fact, we've sort of come back.
Buttercups.
The Buttercups. And they reminded me, because I don't remember, that I was the first president of the Buttercups in the 6th grade. So that was one of my early leadership opportunities. But I was also, I found a picture of me handing off the gavel in the 6th grade as student body president at my elementary school. So what prepared me for it, part of it was family, because I had women in my family who were leaders. My grandmother was in a couple of garden clubs, and she was the president.
I remember those, yes.
Right. She was in 2 of those, and they used to have garden shows, and she was the leader of that. She had her own business, a school of beauty culture, and she was the leader of that. And that was, visionary for her just to do that. And I do remember after she passed away, and years later, I was going through some papers, and I saw where I found her stationery, her letterhead. Bright, clean letterhead, and it listed my grandmother as president of her company and my grandfather, who had his own career, as vice president. I was like, "You go, Grandma. Your husband was the vice president."
Ahead of her time, but then aren't we always? That's what we're talking about. Us being, ahead of our times. Well, bring us up to Spelman. Okay, you came to Spelman with a sense of leadership. Were you looking for places to be? For positions of leadership, or did you gravitate there? What do you think?
No, not really, because when I came to Spelman, I had no notion of what my place would be at Spelman. But eventually, because I knew I came wanting to be a journalist, it just sort of made sense that eventually I would become the editor of the newspaper, which at the time was an elected position. It was like a student council elected position.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was on the student council, but I have to say, by the time I was elected at the end of our 11th grade year, Tina, there was no opposition. So
hey, they found somebody who could do it and could do it well and could do it, happily. Oh my goodness. This is one that they let you graduate.
I know, right? And I think we've mentioned this before. I had to cajole Tina. Come on, Tina, you're an English major. You should write for the paper. You should take some journalism.
No, what she said is, you ought to be ashamed of yourself, calling yourself some kind of writer. And you aren't even on the school newspaper. I remember the whole speech, with the hand gestures and everything, because I was lying in bed, of course.
You sure were. I remember I was sitting on the side of your bed, and I was making this demand of you need to come write for the school paper and take some time.
And it really kind of made sense, but it's interesting how if you're not led to certain things, the newspaper was important in my house. We got, make a newspaper during the week. Sunday, we got the Journal, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution on, and it was read. By the end of the week, it was just in shadows from the funny paper, from the comics all the way. But it's so funny, I never put that together with being a journalist until you said it.
Or being
and when
a
you
writer.
did, it kind of clicked.
Or being a writer, just a writer.
Yeah. Well, I knew about being a writer because, John Oliver Killings and all, I came from, somewhere where I knew writers.
No. What I'm saying, Tina, is you didn't put together that because you wanted to be a writer or you were a writer, that journalism could be the venue for you writing in addition to other things that you can write.
No one had ever really. I knew that, because I probably voted for you for
I knew nobody else to vote for.
So I knew that you were, and of course you wanted to buy sometimes talking about stories and that kind of thing. But this was a real Tina, put up or shut up. Either you're right.
That's part of leadership. That's part of leadership. A leader's job is to find people to follow, to come along and help them, and that was part of leadership. And so. Yeah, I did that.
Okay. Anything in anything at Spelman? I don't want to kind of move on from Spelman because I really want to ask you, for instance, I can ask you specific questions if I may. What in your background, what do you think your family did that can be replicated now? Or things that you look back on and you do for instance, you did with your family that maybe didn't happen then, that would lead them to not to think about leadership positions in whatever they're interested in.
So here's how I can answer that. You often say, I'm not a joiner. I don't join clubs and organizations, but my family was a joiner, the women in the family especially. And so my Aunt Catherine was a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. She was a charter member of the Savannah Alumni Chapter. My grandmother was in the National Council of Negro Women, and she often talked about the time she met Mary McLeod Bethune and Eleanor Roosevelt. I never asked her because I didn't know that much about it, but I never asked her if she went to Washington for the suffragette march, but she talked about meeting Eleanor Roosevelt. So I have to assume that she went to Washington at some point, and she was a part of that movement. But the other thing that was important in my life as a young person was church, because there were so many leadership opportunities in church. We had little clubs, we had a choir, we had all kinds of youth programs. And so I'm pretty sure that I did that. I was in the Girl Scouts. So my family made sure I was involved in a lot of organizations and activities. We had another club called the Deltarettes, not related at all to Delta Sigma Theta. There was a boys club in high school called the Deltas. And my friend Virginia's uncle was the advisor. And then he formed the Deltarettes because he thought that he wanted to teach them, he was teaching the boys how to be men, how to be polite to women and how to have good manners and
take care of themselves. Yes.
All the social graces, like eating with the right utensils. But he recognized that in order to do that, we needed to have girls, because you had to, he wanted to show them how to hold the chair for the young lady or let her eat.
But they discovered, oh my God, we need girls.
Yeah, we need girls. So I think I was a leader in, so there were just lots of little, I was in school. I was the president of the drama group, which I loved.
Really?
Yeah, it was called the Maskers, and I was president of that. So there were just opportunities in the church, in the neighborhood, and school, just all over the place. Editor of my high school newspaper. Before Spelman, I had been editor of the paper in high school.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so those are things that kind of led to leadership for me.
Yeah. Well, are there certain, I'm not a follower because I don't take good directions. So, but I'm not a good leader either because I don't want responsibility. Wanda, what am I? But I was just thinking, are there qualities?
Yeah.
Do you think
For being a leader?
Hey, let me ask this. Are there born leaders and taught leaders, or can you be taught to be? Clearly you can be taught to be a leader, huh? Or do you think there's something?
I think you can be taught to be a leader. I'm going to mention that in a minute. I think, first of all, a lot of people confuse being a good manager with being a good leader. And I like to say that there is a difference. Some people think that they're the same thing. Most leaders are good managers, but not all managers are great leaders. So a manager is somebody that keeps the trains running. Come on, it's time to do this. It's time to do this. Okay, did you do this? Okay, that passes the muster. Let's move on to that. That's a good manager. A good leader is, first of all, I think visionary. Somebody who really thinks outside the box and say, I think we should invent this, or we should start this company, or we should start this organization. I see the need for this widget, whatever it is. Here's a widget, I keep my lotion. We need this kind of lotion because it's small and people can travel with it, and there's a need for it. Ladies can put it in their pocket, in their handbags. Men can put it in their pocket. You can put it in the car. It doesn't take up a lot of room. It's not very heavy. So, people start thinking about that. That's how leaders think. They think, what can we do to make something better in life? And so I grew up with a big old jar of Jergens lotion. You remember those big tall things with the pump, and and then you never would take that outside the bathroom or the bedroom. And so now we have this. So that's a visionary person, So Tina, let me say this: you are a visionary because you founded the Sea Island Writers Retreat. That took vision. It may not be what you managed all the time by yourself, but it really took vision. You said, this is a need. Black women don't have a place where we can go and be our authentic self. We need a place where we can identify with the atmosphere, the sense of place. We need to be in a private space. We need to be all together and not spread all over town. We need to be focused. We need to bring in good speakers. That's visionary. And so you are very visionary. And
oh yeah, I know that I'm a visionary. I'm just not a leader, because Wanda, leader, you've taught me when you take on leadership, you take on responsibility. Can we talk about that a little bit?
So one of the things that I like to say, I have a friend, Ira Shalev, who wrote a book called I actually wrote it down here. It's about being a good followership. And leaders, in order to be a good leader, you have to be a good follower at some point. But one of the things I talk about with being a good leader is you have to understand how to manage up, because your leader may have certain characteristics, but you may not have all the characteristics. That leader may not have all the characteristics of a leader. As a second person, for example, I'm the co-director of your writers retreat coming up in November. I'm always managing up, Tina. You just don't notice it. I'm always saying, Tina, I think we should do this. What do you think about it? You know, I don't just come out and say,
oh, is that what I didn't know what it was called, managing up?
It's called managing up. Yes.
I didn't know there was a name for it. Oh, yeah. I love when Wanda does this. Wanda always says, I know you're gonna think I'm anal, Tina. She doesn't say it anymore. She says, but I said, let's open a spreadsheet. And she always says, oh, Tina thinks I'm anal when I do it. No, I love when Wanda says, let's open the spreadsheet. I'm thinking to get all of Wanda's smarts. I'm thinking to get all her organization. I'm happy with that.
So a spreadsheet is not part of leadership. A spreadsheet is part of managing. So some other characteristics of leadership. One other characteristics is charisma. Leaders are charismatic, hopefully in a good way, because there are some leaders who are charismatic that we don't want to emulate them. They're not good charismatic.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody's thinking the same thing. Let's move on.
But we want people to follow our lead, so you have to be charismatic. You have to be able to say, come with me, trust me, we can do this together. Leaders are multitaskers. They're able to bounce a lot of balls, handle a lot of things at the same time. You know, there are things popping out of their head all the time. Well, what about this? Well, what about this? Well, what about this? And then they can hand it off to somebody else to actually do the work. But leaders are the ones that think about things constantly. Leaders are people who model good behavior. And so, you know, if you have a leader that comes to work at 7 o'clock every morning and doesn't leave till 8, 9 o'clock at night, that's not modeling good behavior, because what leaders do, the people under them want to do the same. And that's not good. That's not a healthy model. And so as a leader, you want to show you have work-life balance. You know, maybe I'm going to take, like a lot of doctors used to do, I'm going to take Wednesday afternoon off and, I don't know, play golf or go to the spa for many of us, or do something that's very personal. And so modeling good behavior is good. For example, years ago, I had a boss at USA Today, and I had a deadline every Thursday at like 11 o'clock to get something. It was a budget, you know, story budgets, or that doesn't have anything to do with money. It's just a list of the stories. And so my job was to get ready for a meeting that started at 12 o'clock, but I had to have my budget ready by 11 to give it to somebody who had to make copies back in the day when we made copies of everything before we had, you know, cell phones.
It's not the same kind of budget, but it's just an important budget.
Exactly. It's very important.
To get a paper out every day.
At 11 o'clock, and I was sort of new in the job and new to USA Today. At 11 o'clock, I always missed my boss because I needed her, either I had a question or I had to have her sign off on something, and she was always missing at 11. And it wasn't until I had worked for her for several weeks that her assistant pulled me aside and said, you know, she gets her nails done every Thursday at 11 o'clock. There was a nail salon right downstairs in the same building. And I thought, eventually, what a good model. You know, she takes time, she has a standing appointment. This is the one thing that she does during the week for herself.
Yes.
And that to me was a model. And guess what? At some point I started getting my nails done, not during the work hours, but on weekends. I started because I thought,
I know every time you tell me, oh, I think I'm gonna take care of my nails.
I still do that.
I think about this woman. I don't know her name, but I know the story. And she truly, made a real change
She
in you.
really did.
And and taught you. We talked about that when we talk about self-care and taking care of yourself.
It's not just having beautiful nails. What it is I'm taking an hour and a half, because I'm going to get my toes done too, to just sit back in a chair and let somebody do something for me. And I'm going to I can't read because my hands are, occupied. I can listen to a book or something or some music, but it's just a time for me to sit in that chair.
Yeah.
The chair with the massage in it, and do like that and do like and enjoy. So modeling good behavior is what a leader does. And then finally, leaders are great communicators. We leave nothing to chance. We have to communicate well as leaders. So whether that's having a conversation with someone and being totally clear on what you mean, that's not just in your head, but you can actually say it, or writing a memo or writing a text message or doing a video, whatever it is. Leaders are good communicators. They can say what they want to say in a very succinct way and get the message across to the people who are following them. So there's some of the qualities of a good leader.
I'm smiling, Wanda, because truly, when I say Wanda's taught me the importance of leadership, she's taught me the importance of all these things that, that she's telling you now about communication and, and about modeling things and getting things done. Absolutely. There have been so many things that you've taught me, and it's not in the area that I would have thought of standing in front of a meeting with a gavel. I think that's what people think about when they think about leadership, or they think about someone running for an office, a political office, something big. But I'm thinking of all the ways that your examples of leadership have impacted our whole company, because you can't do anything without impacting the people, people around you.
Absolutely.
People around you. And one of the other reasons I bring it up is we say that Black women are, stepping up and doing, so much more, but that's a certain generation, and that's a certain part of a generation. And that's why I ask for qualities, what would a grandparent suggest doing, with their child, the grandchild, if they see them come up with ideas, and, how do they help that?
Definitely.
Yeah. How do they water that? And, and what are the kind of signs to look for? And, what kind of places would you suggest that they, explore? What kind of organizations would you think of that would bring the most of them out? When you were saying that about thinking different ways, I immediately thought about a scientist. And I don't think I've ever thought about a scientist as a leader. I mean, other than astronaut.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah. I mean, if you think about, what was it? Hidden Figures.
Yes.
Those women were leaders. I mean, they came up with a way to do whatever that mathematical computation was.
Yeah, literally they were leaders.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they had to face some of the challenges. They had to bring other people along. Sorry, that's my doorbell. So
that's okay.
It's probably a package, and my dog's barking. Tina knows if the doorbell barks, the dog's gonna bark. That's what's going on.
And Wanda's gonna say, "Hey, that's the dog barking for the doorbell."
Yeah.
But you were saying about the qualities and
So there's some other things I wanted to mention.
Okay, please.
Leaders have to make hard choices, and sometimes they're not very popular choices, but they really have to make some hard choices. One of the most difficult decisions or choices I had to make as a leader was during the recession and after the recession, because we were challenged with making money and having enough money to continue the business with all the people, and we had to make some decisions about what needed to be cut.
This is at the
newspaper business, yeah. So it was either people, process, or product. And sometimes it was all three. So people obviously is the employees. Process is, are we doing it in an efficient way where maybe we're using too much ink on the presses, that kind of thing, Or product, meaning, well, maybe we have pages in the paper that we can do without. And so can we cut it? Because that would be less paper.
Like the book section. That's pretty much the first one to go. The book page.
The book pages went, believe it or not, one of our most popular education pages went, things that were going on in schools, very popular, but that went along with the person. But we had to look at that, and you have to, there's where a leader has to look at a spreadsheet. And the reason the leader looks at that spreadsheet, Tina, is because the leader has to do it alone. They can't talk to anybody else in their organization. They have to come up with this information, and they have to figure out how much money they need to save and how much money they can save by putting things in a spreadsheet and doing it over.
The buck stops there.
The buck stops there. So making difficult decisions is one of the things. Leaders have to be lifelong learners. They have to read a lot. They have to study a lot. Many of them go back to school time after time. They have to talk to different people, but they're learning all the time about what it is they're doing, their craft or their organization, their community. Could be church, it could be a pastor, learning all the time, not just learn. The pastor may know everything he or she needs to know about the Bible and about preaching, but then they have to go back to school once they become a pastor and say, oh, I have to learn how to manage the board of trustees or the deacons. Or
how to manage newlyweds and how to counsel people going.
All those things. Yeah.
Well, that's funny. I was just thinking about just the kids that I know, and they're mostly grandkids. But I have some younger ones, and just what you were saying about curiosity about anything, but to make them lifelong learners. I mean, I know that's a big challenge. Yeah. But, one of the things that you and I've been talking about is, trying to get kids away from the screen, so much. But, maybe, we're trying to find a tidal wave, and we find some kind of way to, to interact with them with the screen as far as, lifelong learning. I mean, everybody goes down the rabbit hole when they start to go to Google and try to, look something up. And I know for kids, they don't have a lot of, a lot of information, to deal with. But I just was thinking about just that sense of curiosity certainly makes you a good leader. Absolutely. And I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. Yeah, because your curiosity tells you how to think about making this widget, whatever this widget is.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah. And I also want to mention that leaders always bring someone else along. You cannot be a good leader if you're not helping someone else come along on the path behind you, because you always have to consider who's going to take over for you someday.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. You and I talk about, we talk about that a lot, about the young guns and, who's going to, pick up the batons, and so many of our peers, have picked up, and the generation behind us, and then that next generation. But keeping that spirit going, that spirit going is really a valuable thing. We have to talk about some more about leadership and some other shows, because it touches on so many things. And of course, we're always trying to drop wisdom, and maybe the biggest wisdom is look around, or your children or your grandchildren, or you have leadership qualities and you never really explored them. I think that's a good thing to leave folks with. What do you think?
Yeah, and I'm just going to very briefly wrap it up. We talked about first being a good follower, so we talked about that. Watch effective leaders. When I did my little acceptance speech at the National Association of Black Journalists, when I was inducted into the Hall of Fame, my very brief speech was about people, not just women, journalists, who said that I became a leader because I followed you. I saw you. I observed you. People are always watching you. I never knew this. They never called me and said, hey, I'm watching you. I'm watching you. They just said it after the fact. I became a leader because you were a leader. So people are always watching you. So if you're a leader, just keep that in mind. Raise your hand. There is something called the.
Excuse me. The other thing about that one is that's some sort of mother wisdom that many of us got, at home. And for you to share that now with many young common sense kind of thing.
So if you do something bad, people are watching. If you do something great, people are also watching. Then I call it raise your hand. There's this thing called succession planning. And I mentioned that people, bringing someone else along. As leaders, we're always thinking about succession, but there actually is a document in most organizations, especially corporations, that say, who is on the track or who could be put on the track for succession to succeed. And it's actually, it literally is a spreadsheet. It becomes a spreadsheet. The leader doesn't build a spreadsheet, but all the people under him, the vice presidents, for example, or the vice directors, they're building the spreadsheet and they're saying, oh, Tina could do this, and Shelby could do this, and Wanda could do this. And they're putting the succession plan together. And many times you don't even know you're on the succession plan when they're building the plan. And so as leaders, we think about succession planning all the time. Who can learn how to do this? Real quick example, I have a scholarship at Spelman that I found back in the 90s. And I have reached out to my local Spelman alumni group to say, someone needs to get the report every year from Spelman. They send me a report, how much money is in it, who got the scholarship. I don't pick the scholarship winner, but I want somebody else to get that, because I'm not going to be receiving that report forever and ever and ever. You know, maybe 5 years from now, I'm not going to remember I even have a scholarship. Who knows? And so that's succession planning for me. You know, who's going to be responsible for carrying on this, receiving the report and making sure that this scholarship continues forever and ever, and making sure that people are contributing to it. So that's, and then read books.
Well, wait a minute, can I say something that's interesting? Because everybody kind of needs a succession plan. I was thinking about that. You know, I have Shanae and I are art collectors, and you know, and some of our art is out. But I'm just thinking about the succession plan for that. Exactly. Do I want it to go to one place, or do I want it to spread it out? Do I want to be responsible for it? All of that. You're right. You know, everybody needs a succession plan. If you know, if it's grandma's pearls, or you know what's going to happen.
A will is succession planning if you got grandma's pearls in it. You know, you may not have a lot.
I was going to say that's what a will is, but it's also good to have a plan that everybody knows, so there's not going to be no stuff when it comes to it. Where at least you're taking the leadership position in your life. I guess is what I'm saying. You're deciding.
And it's not just about money. It's about whatever stuff you have. Your writers retreat is succession planning. Maybe in 5 years you may not want to be as involved with it, but you want somebody that you trust. So that's so churches need succession planning.
That's what we've been talking about.
Exactly. And then, you know, I suggested people read a few books. I've liked to read memoirs, and so I've read some memoirs. When I preparing for this, when I looked up, I Googled books on leadership by women. No. I Googled books on leadership first. I found one story that said, here are the top 15 books written for leadership, about leadership. One book by a woman, by Doris Kearns Goodwin, who writes about presidential stuff. She's always
Doris Kearns. It's a historian. Exactly.
Out of that list, she was the only woman on the list, which just kind of surprised me because I hadn't really thought about it. But there are some books I have read; they just didn't make the list. You know,
absolutely. I'm thinking of Cheryl. Lean In. I mean,
well, that's one of the books that I read. I reckon Sheryl Sandberg, who was the Facebook chief operating officer. I think she just said she's about to step down, but she wrote this book called Lean In from her experience as being a leader. I read the memoir of Katharine Graham, who was the publisher and owner of the Washington Post back when I was on staff there. And, you know, she was a huge leader in the journalism. So for me, that's important. So I say to our listeners, find the books about the areas that you're interested in terms of leadership. Because if you're an accountant, you're going to find somebody who's written a book about accounting, about leadership in the accounting world. If you're a minister, you're going to find books about that. I can't tell you what the books are, but you can find those books and look in the areas that you're interested in, because it's always good to see how other people led. So these are some of the
well, you know, Wanda, I have to put in one other. That's what that just came to me when you were talking about that, and that is take advantage of the leaders in your community. I mean, you know, you can read a book about maybe pastoring, but if you want to be a pastor, you have a number of pastors, all kinds of, you know, talk about it with, or if you're interested in newspaper. I mean, I'm a big believer in reaching out to living, a living guide.
Yeah.
Because they really can, that you can have some exchange with them. They may become your mentors. You may need a mentor, but I think that's a great idea to reach out to, even if, you're not thinking in terms of being a leader, you just want to certainly connect yourself with those kinds of people and find out what they know. That's a great idea. Yeah. Books and people.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great segment. Well, we're going to circle back to this. We're going to start picking each other's brains for things that we know that we have expertise in. And you certainly have expertise in leadership. Thank you, sweetie.
Well, it was a pleasure. Before we close this episode, we want to share a segment that we started earlier this year. It's called If I Could Ask the Ancestors. And every now and then, as we have guests on the show, we ask them at the end to just record it so we can play it back later. So we're going to share one with you now by our dear friend, Njeri Mathis Rutledge. Njeri wrote an essay in our collective meeting at the table. She is an attorney and a law professor. And we asked her, if you could ask the ancestors, who and what would you ask? So listen to this.
So if I could talk to our ancestors, I would talk to Judge Constance Baker Motley, who is the first Black woman to argue a case before the Supreme Court, who is the first Black federal judge, who has inspired so many Black women in the legal field, including our own soon-to-be Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. I would say to Constance Baker Motley, how are we doing? How can we get more of us into the pipeline? Is this what you envisioned for us? Did you think we would have Black women at the Supreme Court before now? Or is this just about right? Most of all, I would thank her for all that she's done to inspire us.
Oh, well, that was great. Njeri is also, I have to say, one of your little schoolgirls who not only brings wisdom with her asking the ancestors, but also she's one of your kind of on-the-spot students for your op-ed page writing. I mean, she kind of reached out to Wanda. This was a few months ago, maybe over a year ago.
A couple of years ago, actually.
Was it a couple? Oh my goodness! And she wanted to do this, and she had ideas, and of course, Wanda. She had known Njeri before, and she's a Spelmanite, which also is a good thing. And Wanda just zipped her through op-ed page writing 101, and she was one of your best students. Absolutely. And she took it and ran, and now she's in demand for writing and on the board of USA Today's editorial page, right?
Yeah, she's on the board of contributors for the
contributors. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So that was good. That was good. That's a great question to ask. I'm so glad we're asking folks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll be sharing some more of those. Yeah. So, Tina, that's it for this episode of Two Old Chicks. We hope our audience shares this conversation about leadership with some young folks that maybe your children or your grandchildren or your students or some people, because maybe you sit down and listen to it again with them. We hope that happens. And
that'd be great. Yeah. Well, we keep hearing from surprise people who are listening. So we know that you're out there listening, and I know sometimes on Twitter or social media, they tell me about favorite episodes. So please follow us. If you're not following us, follow and subscribe, and get your friends to do the same. You like what we're laying down. So, invite your friends to pick it up as well. And I want to also mention before we close up, the Sea Island Writers Retreat. The website is up. We're accepting applications. We're so excited. And the website is siwr2022.org. siwr2022.org. And we'll see you there. And we'll see you next time, huh, Wanda?
That's right.
Take care.
And bye-bye, everybody. Love, love.